What's up, and welcome to episode 52 of Brewing Through the Multiverse. I'm Mike.
And I'm Troy. Oh, fresh crack.
Yeah. How we doing, man?
Doing great. How you doing this morning?
Fantastic. It's been a very busy morning. I have a ton of eggs now. The chickens are finally laying eggs, so I cooked a whole bunch of eggs.
That's awesome.
And some bacon. It was fantastic. What are you drinking over there, man?
I got a Dogfish Head Citrus Squall Imperial Golden Ale. It's like a grapefruit with agave. It says like grapefruit and smooth agave. It's a little sweet for my taste, but it's definitely good, solid. It's a 8%er, and didn't entirely intend on it, but this is a beer slushy right now this morning because these were outside. So.
Ooh, all right.
It's a little half frozen.
Look at that. Well, I'm kind of meeting you on the same side of the coin. I've got a Southern Tier Citra Fog. It's a hazy IPA. It's a 6.0. Nice. It's actually really good. It's not too sweet, but you definitely taste the citra to it. I don't know if they actually put like orange or citrus in it, or if they just use the citra hops.
Citra hops are like my favorite hops, man.
Yeah. I agree. Galaxy are my least favorite. Although I will drink it. There's always something about it that's a little too earthy for me. So it's citrus notes from Citra and Mandarina Bavaria hops. That's what they do here.
Okay. This is really good too. Definitely could enjoy these even on a warmer day. Probably would be nicer, but
Yeah. Well, they are very far away. Those warm days are not coming around anytime soon.
No, we're a little ways away from it still. But all right, well, let's jump right into it. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, it's been a few weeks. This is this is 3 weeks since our last recording. June. Nope, still not. January was a wild month. But here we are. Over this month, probably one of the highlights of it in terms of Magic is we went to a Standard RCQ. I chickened out. I didn't actually enter. I showed up and then fucking bailed. I just bought booster packs like crazy. But you entered. How did it go, man?
I entered and I got completely stomped on. It was my first RCQ that I ever played in, but it was still a good time, still a cool learning experience. Definitely, a learning experience that, you got to be ready for all these triggers to happen. You got to be ready to announce all your triggers. And, I think one of the most difficult things for me was, the time pressure for each turn. Not that you have to. I don't know if there is a time limit for each turn, even necessarily, but everybody's expecting these super quick, super snap decisions. Essentially, I feel like taking more than like 30-40 seconds for your turn basically is like looking like you're dragging it out basically.
Yeah, everybody's on edge. So, there is no, hanging around, having fun. They want you to play because they need to get to their turn and try to win. There is no time limit per turn, but they can definitely call a judge on you for slow play. So if you do take too long, they'll call a judge on you just because you fucking took a minute, because then they think you're trying to bring it to a draw instead of a loss, which, again, is one of these things is why I chickened out. When I walked in and I talked to Tyler and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about entering. He goes, okay, just so you know, I know how you play. There's no small talk. You make sure you play tight. And I was like, okay, never mind. I'm not ready for this. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Because the last podcast we had, I talked about how when I was watching you guys play, I was like, oh, you missed your. If I did that during an actual RCQ, I would have been disqualified as a player, and the game itself, I'm sure something would have had to go down. So, I definitely want to enter. I think we should get together and just grind out as much paper as possible so we're familiar with it.
Absolutely. So I'll say too that I felt like aside from missing some triggers of my own, probably only like 2 or 3 really throughout the 3 matches. But aside from that, I feel like I did a good job with managing, sort of that small talk and not, remembering things like taking out my sideboard at the end of the match before the beginning of the next match, because as I had told you, at the beginning of the second match that I played, the judges actually grabbed mine and my opponent's decks and checked them both, which I haven't experienced before. And I'm sure that if you have sideboard cards in still at the beginning of your match, you're going to get DQ'd for that match, at least.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So I think I did a good job. Yeah. No, it is. I mean, you got to be on top of it. So I think I did a good job of, managing that type of stuff. And even like, I had missed, or I forgot that like 2 of my creatures were exiled instead of in the graveyard, and I had played a Gix's command to return 2 creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield, and my opponent reminded me that they were exiled, and he was like, "But you can take it back." But I was like, honestly, the match was gone already anyway. The game was gone. At least, and I was like, no, that's all right, because I think that's just the way to play respectfully in that format, rather than being like, oh no, I'm gonna change this, I'm gonna take that back, I'm gonna untap this land that I already tapped, like so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's fair. Even just for your own self, it's like, maybe he did allow it, but that it wasn't allowed, and just to keep yourself tight. And that's how you remember for the next time, is when there's actually consequences, so that's always good. But I am excited for the next one. I have my standard deck fully built out. It's ready in paper. I've been playing it on Arena nonstop. So the last podcast, we were talking about, going to the RCQ and trying to get paper standard going. And I was like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play traditional best of 3 standard on Arena and see if I could get to Mythic. If I could get to Mythic, I'd feel more, comfortable with my jank deck that is not in meta, not part of what people are playing. And my journey to Mythic was way easier and calmer and faster than I thought it would have been. The deck that I was playing is my Rakdos Disguise. It got me up to Diamond, no problem. It got me up until the game before Mythic. And then at the game before Mythic, all they sent me was the Esper meta deck.
Right. The Esper
I lost
deck.
Yeah, and I lost 4 games in a row, sent me all the way back down to, a rank or 2, because it's best of 3, so you're losing 2, ladder rungs each time. And I ended up having to modify it to where I put in my 4 scrap heap scrawlers and my 4 my 4 scrawling crawlers and my 4 needlehead kin, whatever the fucks.
Yeah.
And with that in my main board, I was able to just immediately blow right into Mythic, because a lot of these blue decks are trying to draw cards. And if they're taking damage every time they draw, or taking 2 or 3 damage every time they draw, and then it goes to my turn and they draw 2 cards on my turn because of the crawlers, and they take 6 damage, they couldn't get out of there. And what was good about it is I don't need any cards in my hand. If you make me discard my whole hand, that's okay, because on my upkeep, I'm going to draw 2 cards. And then I'm going to cast them both. And then I don't care if you make me discard my hand. And damage is still happening. I don't need to swing out. It worked out really well. I'm going to try this deck in our next RCQ. But at the same time, I don't know. Because your deck is killing it too. But when you sit down with these well-versed players, like they have at the shop, it's not really your deck as much as it is your piloting. So...
Yes, well, the piloting is super important. Can't overstate it really, but I did want to get to as well that I think I might be straying away from this Orzhov deck that I've been doing, because I've tinkered around with a lot of different iterations of it. It's it's a tier 2 deck on MTG Goldfish, but it it's a tiny little percentage of the metagame, and I think I don't know that there is a build of it that competes with these tier 1 decks. Yeah. There's things like I know you just grabbed a playset of cut downs, and that's not something that I'm running, but it's something that is a problem for me. I'm running 4 of the Sheltered by Ghosts, and the cut downs, because almost all my creatures are little small dudes. You put a Sheltered by Ghosts on it, and it's good. It protects it from a lot of removal. But as these games get drawn out a little bit, and then they pull a cut down, paying that ward 2 is no problem when it's only going to take cost them 1 to target it to begin with. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And cut down is my most the biggest selling point on cut down is when you're playing against these decks, obviously the Deep Cavern Bats is going to be the turn 2 play. And it's important to where whether you're on the play or on the draw, that 1 mana that you have before that bat enters, you could destroy the bat before you lose the card from your hand. So they play the bat, they were on the play, you only have 1 mana, and that 1 swamp will take care of the bat for you. There's no other card other than, there's the red 2 damage, 1 mana. There's the white, lay down. I think it's lay down arms.
Lay down arms.
Right.
Deal damage equal to the number of planes you control.
Right. But yeah. I personally think the best of them all is cut down, because cut down can take care of a 1/4. It could take care of a 3/2. So it's the best of them. So you need them. If you're playing black, you need them. And it's unfortunate because I like Bitter Triumph as the actual removal because it could hit planeswalkers. But
right. Yeah.
Now you got to run both.
I've found Bitter Triumph to be a little underwhelming. Those additional costs of paying the 3 life or discarding a card, unfortunately are a hindrance. I would say overall, I found those costs to be more of a hindrance than it offers benefit compared to Go for the Throat, and including that Go for the Throat can't hit artifact creatures. For the meta game that we've been playing. What's the artifact creature that you're avoiding? I guess maybe
scrolling crawlers, dude.
Maybe. I think it's Phyrexian Scrapgorger, right? That it's that 3 mana colorless, but you can pay 7, I think, as well. And it comes in as a 7-drop or a 3 power menace lifelink. And then that one's got ward, pay life equal to its power as well. That's a you see that in the metagame. It's not like a top played card, but it's out there in the metagame for sure.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of artifact creatures, but whenever one does show up, it makes me feel bad. But you have to ask yourself, like you're saying, is what hurts more, the 3 damage when you're already low life total, or not hitting that 1 creature, that 1 game, 1 time because it was an artifact? My big thing about Bitter Triumph, though, is it can hit planeswalkers, which means the Liliana of the Veils in the discard your hand decks are going to go away. The Kaidos are huge right now. There's I think it's Elspeth or the Wanderer is the one that, so there's a lot of planeswalkers that are
Archangel Elspeth. Archangel Elspeth's out there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. It seems like the planeswalkers still aren't, you see them a little bit here and there, but I don't feel like they're, really at the top of the metagame altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you seeing them a lot? Were you seeing them a lot on the ladders? The Liliana of the Veils, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But I saw there was a lot of Liliana the Veils and golds in
mhm.
the next one, whatever the next one is, Diamond,
Platinum. Yeah.
Platinum, Diamond. They were
Yeah.
there. But once you got into
Yeah.
Mythic, I have
Yeah.
not seen a single Lily of the Veil. I've seen a lot of
Right.
Kaidos.
Okay.
I've seen
Yeah.
Elspeth,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
saw a few of the mono red one. The big guy, Koth. I think I saw some Koths.
Okay.
There was a lot of like
Yeah.
mono red
Yeah.
Koth decks, which was weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you know,
Hmm.
it all comes down to personal taste, and at the end of the day, put them in the sideboard. You know, if you don't want a main board bitter
Yeah.
triumphs because of the damage, they're a great sideboard card. So
Yeah. All right. So before we move on to all this, spoiler stuff, everything coming up as far as that goes, I, I, I guess I'm curious. I'm interested in your opinion on, if I'm going to move away from this Orzhov deck. Do you have any recommendations? Any input on what directions you think I should try? Because I'm kind of in the weeds here right now with it.
well, I mean, I hate to say it, but you could add blue and just kind of go into the Esper build. I mean, keep
Yeah.
your core of trying to get the blood
Bloodthirsty
combo.
Conqueror. Yeah. I don't know. I think in my opinion, I think that's just a different deck. And I do have some of the pieces already. I have the Nowhere to Runs. But I'm not opposed to this deck. It's actually the most budget of the tier 1 decks.
Yeah.
But it is that that misery.
Yeah.
So
But
that
you'll be on the giving side instead of the receiving side. So it might be fun.
It's an option.
What are you feeling?
I don't know.
Like, what in your
know.
heart? What cards are like? Damn, I wish I could get this in here.
It's funny, I guess this is my biggest struggle with it right now is that I have some pieces for a couple of these different ones. I have pieces for like 3 of them, I would say, because I have the Nowhere to Runs and like one of the Pixies and maybe some other cards for the Esper Pixie deck. I have Mosswood Dread Knights and some stuff like that for the Golgari deck that's happening right now. Probably have the least amount of pieces for that one, but still have a couple. I think I have a couple of the that one Merfolk that gets played from Caverns. It's the 3-drop that has vigilance and makes a map token when it enters and attacks. Pull that one up in a minute. I think I have a couple copies of that, and then I have I definitely have some pieces for the Gruul aggro deck that's out there right now too. The Paw Patch recruits and some of the mice. Paw Patch recruit is the one. It's a 1 mana green 1-drop rabbit that has offspring and gets like a +1/+1 when it gets targeted.
I think it's whenever another creature's target, or whenever it's targeted, or no, whenever. Well, let's pull. You know what? Let's pull it up. I got
pull this one up.
I got
Sure.
the ability to do
pull
that, but I'm pretty sure
I gotta. Yeah,
because I've been hosed by it a few times.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you as you just heard, I have some pieces for like a few of these different decks. I'm just kind of not sure what direction I should really go for.
So yeah, the Paw Patch Recruit is 1 green, 2/1, which is great stats. Offspring of 2. So for 3 mana, you get 2 of these. One of them being a 1/1. It has trample. And whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell or ability, so any creature you control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control other than the one that's targeted. So obviously, if they have a few little guys out, you try to destroy one of the bigger ones, they're going to put a 1/1 counter on it. If they've offspringed it, 2 1/1 counters get put on something. So it's a great way to keep it going. And for 1 mana, that's good scale. It's like, all right, turn 1, I drop a 2/1, hell yeah. And then later on in the game, it's okay, for 3 mana, I'm getting 2 creatures, and if you try to remove something, there's going to be a problem. So yeah, it's definitely a good card. How do you feel about decks like that with all this board wipes, though? Because board wipes are going crazy right now.
Yeah. It's tough to say. I mean, so what's your protection from that? What deck are you playing that doesn't get hit by the board waves?
The Esper. That's all you got.
Yeah.
You got to play the Esper. That way it's all enchantments out there.
Yeah. But that's not even the top meta deck, really. It might have been for a minute. I don't think it is right now. I think just a mirror. The mirror is that's what I'm looking at right now. Let's see.
Yeah. I gotta say this town ain't big enough where it bounces both of two things. That's one of my least favorite cards to play against.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think your best bet is if you like your Orzhov deck and you want to change it up for more playability, I'd say leave it as is and see if you could just find some sideboard cards and put them in the main board. So Tyler was telling me about this one creature where whenever it's discarded, whenever your opponent makes you discard it, it comes onto the battlefield instead as a 4/4. Okay. It's a white creature. I don't know the name or anything. We'd have to look into this, but there is a 4/4 creature where if it's discarded from your hand, it comes out onto the battlefield. So that's a great sideboard to just put it in your main board. You know you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And worst comes to worst.
That's a nice one. Yeah. We'll see. I don't even know. I'd say there's a chance. What I'm trying to do, I think, is find another color pairing to try out, get into, but not necessarily step away from this Orzhov entirely yet until I'm more more happy with another color pairing. Yeah.
Or you wait 1 week and we see what Aether Drift does to the standard, because I mean you might be thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to build, and then 1 week later everything gets turned upside down and suddenly there's this mono red Hazoret deck that's taken all those things. So
so I think that's what are you thinking? Because I think in my gut feeling with this set coming up, I don't think it's going to be the total turn the metagame on its head type of switch that we might sometimes see. I think that this is going to have more of a surface kind of impact on things. Does that sound valid to you at all, or what's your gut feeling on it?
Yeah, that's how it always is. I mean, the new set comes out and I'm always so ready for everything to change, and it never does. Just some people will take that one removal spell that's better, or that one mythic that'll hit a little faster, and it doesn't. However, the one different thing about Aether Drift, and let's talk about this before we get into the mechanics and the spoilers, is there's clearly a fucking metric shitload of artifacts coming.
Right.
A lot of them are vehicles and everything, but there's one thing I want to bring up is we still have March of the Machine. No, the Brothers War, which is going to be doing a bunch of power stones, and power stones can be used to cast artifacts.
Sure.
So there's a few cards in this set that I think are going to come out. So they're old in standard, but they're going to be new front runners in the new standard.
Yeah.
One of them that I want to say immediately, it's so rare. It's called Thrawn Spider. It's a 3-mana 2/4 with reach, so it's able to block, all of these little fairies that are trying to fuck around. This is going to be a blocker for it. And when it enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each get a tap power token. So you get it. I mean, your opponent gets it too, but you're getting.
If they're not playing artifacts, then it's not really going to be that relevant for them, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can pay 7 to look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. So there's also this added little, oh shit, I can't get past this. Let me look at the top 4 cards and draw. It's 7, but you could use power stones to do it. So Thrawn is a big one. I think Roaming Throne is going to end up coming out more because it's got its ward 2. It's a 4-mana 4/4.
Yeah, that's a good card already. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last one I want to call out, which is probably our biggest, and I think I'm actually going to pull this up on the screen, because if anybody wants to spec or is holding them, I guarantee you that this is going to be an expensive card. This is the Simulacrum Synthesizer.
Oh yeah, that's
So
already, yeah. That
yeah,
card is broken. It's busted. Yeah.
exactly. It's already powerful.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
can drop this out early and start dropping artifacts, vehicles that are fucking with it, I can't really get it bigger on the screen. So here, let me pull this up real
I
quick.
feel like
Just take a peek at this monster.
Yeah, I feel like that's the deck. You know, we're probably, so I think that that's going to be the big impact of this set. Basically, is that we're going to see, you know, we're probably going to see two decks come up in particular. It's going to be probably this deck with the synthesizer come up and become a tier 1 deck, and then there'll probably be like one or two other, you know, artifact decks that pop up there closer, you know, in tier 2, that become a little bit more relevant as well. But that's what I mean when I feel like this set isn't going to turn the metagame on its head, because it's gonna have these big additions for a couple of artifact decks, but you know, all of these other decks that aren't artifact synergies are definitely still going to be relevant too. It's not going to all of a sudden just be artifacts all over the top of the metagame. Right.
For sure. But I mean, you know, even these non-artifact decks might take a few. So as we look through the spoilers, we'll see if there's anything that will fit. When we look through, we'll see, does this have a home? Does this have a home? But so Simulacrum Synthesizer is a 3 mana, so 2 and a blue artifact. When it enters, scry 2. And then whenever an artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So just you cast a vehicle, you're going to get a token. You cast the Thrawn Spider, which is a 3 mana, you're going to get your 2/4. You're going to get this, you know, let's see. So the Thrawn enters as an artifact, the Power Stone is an artifact, and the vehicle that you're casting is an artifact. So it's at least going to be a 3/3, you know, for getting your Thrawn out. And I just see this as being a great way of pumping it up. There's also that 2 white artifact from, I believe, Ixalan. And it says when it enters, create a construct with power equal to the artifacts you have. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, tap 5 artifacts, which could be all Power Stones, and flip it to a land to where whenever you cast an artifact, make a construct. So clearly, if you're flipping it, you already have 5 out. So every time you cast an artifact, you're going to get a construct that's going to be at least a 5/5. Typically, it's a 7/7, 9/9, 12/12. And if you have the Simulacrum Synthesizer out when that thing's flipped, you're getting 2 of them. So I see this as being a really big problem. I've already built a shell for this for Standard on Arena. That way, as soon as it comes out, I could test the shit out of this. But,
yeah, you already got your 4 of.
Of everything except what's in Aether, obviously. But I'm ready for it. I got my wild cards. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. All right. So you ready to? You want to get into what
the spoilers? Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah.
But let's first hit the 2 new mechanics that are coming out on here. That way we could just address the mechanics. The first one is obviously, well, not obviously, but the one I like the most is Exhaust. So I will pull up a sample Exhaust card so we can go over this here. But so ultimately, Exhaust is kind of like a one-time kicker. So the card's out, you pay a certain ability, a certain amount of mana, and something will happen. It can only happen one time. Here we go. We'll do this little 1 mana merfolk here. Boppity bop. Bibbity boop. All right. So Exhaust says specifically activate each exhaust ability only once, meaning once per game while it's out. However, if you blink it, it sees it as a new thing. You can do it again. This 1 mana merfolk is a 1/1 blue. Exhaust is X blue, and you tap it, draw X cards, put a 1/1 counter on each merfolk creature you control. This one's not that powerful, but this just goes to show that It comes out normal stats, and it has this one big boost to do something. Do you like this mechanic? Is this something that gets you excited?
It's not. I mean, that this and the other mechanic that we're going to talk about in a minute. You know, there's not much from this set that has me excited at all. But you know, I said it to you and Joel in text the other day. You know, I have to admit that even though the concept of this set is less appealing to me than probably any concept, any theme for a set that they've had since I've been playing. But the execution is better than I would expect. You know, that's what I have to, you know, admit. You know, my concession on this. The artwork, the mechanics, the, you know, just the individual cards, it's still fairly appealing, you know. I'm not that turned off to it compared to what it could be, essentially.
I aesthetically and set wise as a tightness, listen, everyone's saying it. I can't even argue that it's not the best looking set. Everything feels a little weird. I mean, it's felt weird for Thunder Junction Murders. There's been some weird feels lately in these sets. It's like they're trying to Nickelodeon it, or trying to like bring it back to a more general, which, listen, I'm all for. So that's why I'm not saying negative, but I do see it and I get it. However, if you look at these cards without the gimmicky names and the weird artwork, I mean, these cards themselves are still fantastic. Magic as a game and a mechanic is doing great. And I brought up Exhaust first because I love this. I think this is as clean and straightforward as you can do in terms of new mechanics, because, I mean, Manifest Dread, I personally love it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so what? I got to draw 2 cards. One of them's coming down. I can cast it, but only if it's a creature. Can I look at it all the time? You know, this and that. And the other one goes to the graveyard or to hand. It is. It's
a little messy.
It's really messy. But I love it. But for this here, it literally says, hey, pay this mana, tap it, boom, there's your thing. Don't do it again. That's it. And you know, people are saying, oh, you can't track it. How are you going to know if you did it or not? Listen, if you don't know whether you activated one ability or not, you shouldn't be playing Magic the Gathering. This game is a fucking mess then, you know? So I like it though, and I will defend it.
You know, the gimmicky names don't bother me at all. You know, I'm looking at this card here. I mean, the card doesn't look that playable to me, but you know, I think it's kind of funny. Crash and Burn. It's a 4-mana red card, instant, destroy vehicle, or deal 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker. It's not really a playable card, but I mean, you know, maybe in limited. But I don't know, the artwork, the gimmicky name, I think it's kind of funny. Doesn't bother me at all.
I saw one card. It was called Roadside Assistance Tune Up, you know, like Speed Demon. Like, dude,
it almost makes sense that it's like kind of like almost makes more sense to me why they made a set like this, because there are those funny things that, like, you know, are associations, and they're kind of like easy wins almost. I don't know. But all right, so I'll mention I looked through the spoilers. Nothing much gets me, you know, too excited in here. Nothing that I'm noting too much about, but I do want to mention one card in here. It's a common. It's nothing, you know, that explosive, but just the impact that I'm expecting that it might have on the impact on the metagame because of what it is. So it's Bounce Off. 1 blue, return target creature or vehicle to its owner's hand. So essentially this card is the same as Fading Hope, which was 1 mana blue card from Midnight Hunt. And that was really, you know, relevant in the metagame for a long time. It only just doesn't have the additional text that Fading Hope has of if its mana value was 3 or less, scry 1. So it's return target creature to its owner's hand for 1 blue mana. You know, I'm just expecting that this is going to slot right into the Esper Pixie deck, and you know, just a good sideboard card for, you know, maybe decks that are reanimating. I don't know. It's too much value to not include in your blue decks, basically. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I run the one blue mana return spell from Bloomburrow. It's the one with gift. So 1 blue mana, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. You can gift them, I think, a card, and if you do, then you can remove any non-land permanent. The big problem with it is you can't do your own cards. So I just was in an issue where I wanted to bounce my own creature because they were going to kill it. You can't.
Right.
So I would definitely run bounce off over the other one now.
Which one is that? Because that's relevant as well, though, too.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's go to it's actually on my Magic Arena. Let me pull it up real quick. But in the meantime, while I'm pulling that up, let's just address the second ability mechanic for the set, which is max speed.
Sounds good.
So max speed is a little count to 4. When you play a card that says start your engines, you start your speed. And if you have no speed, it starts at 1. It increases once on each of your turns, so it has to be your turn. When an opponent loses life, not dealt damage, just loses life. Once it reaches 4, you're at max speed. So keep in mind, when you play a card with start your engines, it starts at 1. If you play another card with start your engines, it does not go to 2. It stays at 1. Mm-hmm. And you can deal damage on that turn to increase it 1 time. So you could play it, start your engines at 1, deal that damage, you go right to 2. I hear a lot of people talking that it's going to take 4 turns. It really doesn't, because that first turn you play it, you could technically go to 2. Right. Then next turn you go to 3. So it's 3 turns, 1 quicker. Right. And then what the cards that have max speed say, like this one here in the front, Burnout Bastronaut, nice name. When your speed is at 4, this creature has double strike. So
when it has double strike, will it tick up twice? Because of dealing damage twice?
No, because you can only move up 1 speed per turn. So that's it. You know, once you have that 1 turn, that 1 move up, you're there, and you don't get the double strike until you are at max speed, which at that point you can't go any faster than your max speed.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that it's going to take too long, that it's not going to be usable. Right here, I'm showing Burnout Bastronaut is a 1 red 1/1 with Menace. So that's a pretty good way to start it. There are also lands that have it. So you could drop a land to start your speed and then steal damage. I think this is going to be a lot more powerful than people are speculating. Again, this is a thing where people are saying, oh, this is going to be hard to track. How do you know what speed you are? It's like, listen, if you can't count to 4, come on, man. We've seen some monstrosities in terms of mechanics. This is not them. So save your
I definitely don't think it's too convoluted to play or anything, but it is 100% the type of deck that you would build. Because I think, you know, one thing, I've come to find that I enjoy much more building decks that rely on a synergy, as well, just as the Orzhov deck that I've been playing is all about, a synergy between the cards. But, I think a lot of people really just want to play value piles,
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the problem, is people want to have the resilience, because obviously if you're going pedal to the metal, no pun intended, to try to get your speed going and attack, it's gonna take that 4 mana board wipe, the 5 mana, Sunfall, and then you're fucked. So I understand why it's probably not going to be popular, but at the same time, maybe there's a way to fit it into this nice mid-range where, okay, I didn't get to my speed till turn 6, but I wasn't planning to win till 10 anyway, and now all my cards are, on steroids. So
well, I don't think they would make, for both of these mechanics, they put a bunch of cards in that have the mechanic but aren't that powerful. But I don't think they would do the mechanic, bottom line, if there aren't a couple of cards in there that are just generically good and include that mechanic on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need to kind of build around this for sure, because if you didn't start your engines early, then just shut the car down.
But they got to have a couple of cards that have this mechanic on it that are just solid cards, that are just, the hits of the set, basically.
Yeah, and we'll go through it. I have a list here of cards. I know you said there's not too many cards you want to highlight in it. I have a list that I'm going to show you. I want to get your opinion on them, because they're cards that I thought specifically for Standard might stand out. So I'll do kind of like a sales pitch to you on this set.
This is the type of set, and I'm excited to hear what you have there, because for me so far, looking at this set, it is one of those, it's like an album with, it's going to have a couple hit singles on there, and then but the other 10 tracks are all just filler, basically. I'm curious to see, are there any deep cuts in there that are worthwhile?
Oh yeah, baby, I'm gonna show it.
All right. Cool, perfect.
Well, before we get to that, let me just you asked what that one blue mana bounce spell I was using, and it's Into the Flood Maw. It's one blue mana instant, return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. That's the part that fucks me up. But if the gift was promised, which the gift is a tapped fish, not a card, so they get a tapped fish, which is awesome. You can bounce any non-land permanent and opponent controls to hand. The reason why these Esper decks aren't playing this is because they want to bounce their own Hopeless Nightmare, and they can't with this. But if you're using it for tempo against your opponent, this is a phenomenal bounce spell. I would still play Bounce Off though, so you're right on that.
I'm wondering, there's got to be an Is It deck that's viable, right? How's there not an Is It deck on the tier list?
I mean, there's the Otter decks that are doing it now. I know that they're playing the class Otter.
The Storm Chasers talent is in a bunch of different top tier decks, but none of them seem to be Is It in particular. I picked up a couple of copies of Kitsa Otterball Elite, I believe, off of out of the dollar bin, and this card seems playable.
I've seen it out there. It's out there.
Yeah, it seems playable, but I don't see it really. But it seems like it would want to go in Is It shell to me, because you're going to want to play, the red drops with prowess.
Yeah. Well, the new set coming out, I don't think is going to facilitate more Is It, unfortunately. But I still think it's out there. I think you can still build these, just don't bring it to an RCQ.
What about Simic? Could that be on the horizon? I don't know.
I don't know about that. Again, like I know Doppelgang, which is a Simic card, is being abused, and oh my god, I hate that card. But
yeah, that's a good one. I might have to play around with that. It's EL.
So Doppelgang is an XXX green blue. For each of X target opponents, create X targets that are copies of that a permanent. I read that wrong. For each of X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So obviously for 5 mana, you're going to get 1 copy of a permanent. But for 8 mana, you're going to get 2 copies. If there's any way you can produce a ton of mana, you can possibly make tons of copies of shit. Long-winded, but if you're doing a bunch of baloney, there it is.
It's very cool. And then, I have some of these other pieces for something Is It potentially too. I tried something out on Arena this morning that was a Simic deck that was putting a lot of instant sorceries into the graveyard and getting out Tolarian Terror and Eddie Merc Crab. Which both have cost reduction if you have instants and sorceries in the graveyard. So I don't know, some things that I might tinker around a little bit with. This is why I want to get together and play some Paper Standard, because there's some things that I'd like to try out in Paper Standard that I feel like, might have legs, but I don't even know if, Arena is necessarily the best place to, test it all out.
It's always the best for me to test on Arena just because they're free cards. You don't have to pay for these chase mythics and everything,
Yeah.
And
no, of
just
course.
Don't have to sleeve any cards. Don't need to see how the triggers work. Like, because sometimes I'm playing paper cards and like a few games in, I'm like, oh, that's not how that card actually plays. Oh shit, So it's nice to immediately know whether I'm fucking up or not.
All right, before we move on with spoilers, let me just grab another beer. I'll be right back. Right.
Yeah, you got it. Actually, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put this on pause real quick because I'm already on my second beer. I'm going to need a third. Anyone listening, this is going to be an extended podcast. It's going to go over an hour, so just get ready. Pause it. And we're back from the beer break. Okay. Well, now here we go. We're going to be talking about some Aether Drift spoilers. The first one here is Thunder Speed. I don't know where the fuck that came from. Okay. The first card I do want to propose to you is a mythic that I think is absolutely retarded. Thunderous Velocipede is a 1 green 5/5 artifact vehicle. So for 3 mana, you're getting a 5/5. It has crew 3. That's great stats. The problem is each other vehicle and creature you control enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it if its mana value is 4 or greater. Otherwise, it enters with 3 additional 1/1 counters on it. Which means once this is out on, and you could drop this on turn 2 with the Llanowar Elves, no problem. Any creature that comes out has an additional 1/1 counter on it. And if you're dropping, like, let's say your Patchwork, your Paw Patch Patrol Rabbit, whatever, the one we were just talking about, that's coming out as a 5/4. And its offspring is going to come in as a 3/3. If you play a Gruff Triplets, the first one that enters is going to be a 4/4 with trample instead of a 3/3. And the 2 copies of it are going to be 6/6s with trample. And whenever one of them dies, you're going to put 3 counters on the other 2. It's out of control. This is an unbelievable green card, a guaranteed banger. And I can't say enough about this card. I'm very afraid of this. And then you could just crew it for 3 and swing with a 5/5 with trample. Crazy. What's your thoughts?
What does this go into? The Golgari deck or the Gruul deck? Right now,
both. Because it doesn't say whenever a green creature enters. It could be any. So you could drop a mystic. What is that? The Swift Spear. Drop the Swift Spear, which is a 1/2. Yeah. But guess what? It gets 3 additional counters on it. Now it's a 4/5 for 1 mana. With haste and prowess. And okay, you don't want to attack it with it, just use it to crew this 5/5 with trample,
Yeah.
Once this is out turn 3, and like I said, you could drop it turn 2, then on turn 3, drop 3 1-drops. They all have 3 1/1 counters on it. Drop a Bristly Bill for 2 mana. It comes out as a 5/5. Then you drop a land. It's a 6/6.
Right, yeah.
Wild, dude.
Yeah.
So you want this with small creatures, but also if you have big creatures, they're already big creatures, and they're going to get a 1/1 counter on it.
I'll be curious to see, because I feel like, there's got to be, I think this definitely goes into one of those shells. I'm just not sure which one is going to take the most advantage of it. I feel like the probably the Gruul decks with anything playing. Well, no, it's more the it's more the Golgari decks that are playing the Innkeeper's Talent, right?
Yeah,
yeah. How does this work with Innkeeper's Talent?
So Innkeeper's Talent, you play your creature. It already has the one. So if Innkeeper's Talent is going to put the 1/1 on anything, which is always good, but when you put it to the level 2. It says whenever something has a 1/1 counter on it, it has ward 1. So already any creature you cast, you don't have to wait for the triggered ability at the beginning of combat. It's already going to have the ward 1. So with Innkeeper's Talent, everything's protected. You're going to get the ward. It's going to get 3 1/1 counters on it for most of the stuff you play. And then, what is it on the attack I don't know level 3 of Innkeeper's Talent. I think it's they get trample.
It's double the number of +1/+1 counters on it, I believe.
Well, there's your answer. My God.
Yeah. But actually, I think the creature's getting ward 1 for. Do they only get ward 1, or do they get ward 1 for each +1/+1 counter?
Just ward 1 if they have counters on them, so it's not going to stack.
Okay.
But if you play 2 Innkeeper's Talents and you pump them up, boom, there you go, ward 2. I like this. So again, this is, let's say we're talking Gruul, we're talking meta decks right now. The Moss Knight, you drop your Moss Knight, it is mana value 3, so that Moss Knight's going to come in with 3/1/1 counters on it, and then once they finally kill this monster, you just recast it to draw a card, replay it. It's now another. So Moss Knight's a 3/2, so it'll be a 6/5 every time for casting it. Moss Knight's 3, right? Yeah, 3. So or 2? Is it 2 mana?
It's 2, yeah.
Even worse.
Yeah.
Even worse. So, but I like this. So, like I said, every time I pull up a card, I'm going to try to see if it fits in this artifact shell. And if I drop this and then I drop a scrolling crawler is going to be a 6/5.
Nice.
That Thrawn Spider that I mentioned is a 2/4. It's going to be a 5/6, 5/7 with reach for 3 mana. So this is a thing. This is a really big thing, and I don't hear anyone talking about it. So there it is. All right, let's move on to the next here. Back up. Here we go. Some of them are going to be more fantastical than others, but I promise there's a reason for all of them. All right, so Thopter Fabricator. I spelled that wrong. Thopter Fabricator.
Fabricator.
Oh, you caught it. All right, so it's a 3 mana, 2 and a blue, 4/4 vehicle with crew 2. So the crew 2 is nice. 2 is an easy power. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. I really like this for the Dimir deck because it is a pretty low drop. You are going to have a fairy out that is going to have 2 power. So you can easily have a flying 4/4, which is better than a flying 2/2. And then obviously they're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. They have that the fairy mastermind or whatever that lets you draw. Yeah. So like you're expecting to draw more than 1 card, and every time you do, you get another flying Thopter artifact creature token with flying. It's going to clog up the board. It's going to help you swing. Those Thopters can now start crewing the Fabricator in order to swing as the 4/4 along with the fairies.
This card is really interesting, actually. Yeah, this looks really good. And yeah, this is exactly what you're talking about when you're talking about like sleepers from the set, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is totally the type of thing I would overlook, but actually it looks really good.
Yeah. And you can it's a good sideboard card too. Like if you are a Dimir playing against a mirror match, this is a great thing to drop because your opponents are going to be drawing. So then you drop your Fairy Mastermind to draw your second card, and now this is going to get its Thopter. You're going to have more flying than them, and I really think this is a fantastic card. Again, not very flashy like the last one we just saw, but you can't complain about a 1/1 flyer every time you're getting card advantage. And hey, play a scrawling crawler, and then at your upkeep, you already draw 2 cards. That's your 1/1 flyer every time. And they're taking advantage for the card draw.
That's your card of the year so far, huh? That's your favorite card right now.
It's Scrawling Crawler and Flump are the 2 best cards in Magic the Gathering. I really, truly feel that. But every card I pull up, I'm going to tell you how Scrawling Crawler can make it better. But no, this is a good one. Again, it's another vehicle. If you play the Thran Spider, you're going to get your Power Stone to cast these easier. The scrolling, the Thrawn Spider has 2 power to crew this. It has reach, so
Nice.
good cards. All right. Move to the next one. Yeah. So Vinwixt, the verbose host.
As soon as you typed that, I thought, oh, he's got another one wrong.
He's having a seizure. Yeah. VNWXT. I love that they don't use vowels. Great. Fibblethip, Vingst.
That's wild.
But yeah, little homunculus. So this is a legendary 1 in a blue 0/4. So it's great to drop early as a blocker. It starts your engines, so it will start the max speed count. It says you have no maximum hand size, and its max speed is if you would draw a card, draw 2 cards instead, which is a perfect pair for the Fabricator that we just went over. Because if you can, again, if you are poking in the air with little 1/1s, you're going to be upping your speed, and at some point that speed is going to hit 4, and every time you draw your first card, you'll just draw 2, and it automatically makes you a Thopter.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can see that. Yeah.
I don't know how powerful this will be. I don't think this is actually going to hit standard, but I think this is something that'll be great in Commander. I think there are shells that can put this in there because, again, as a 0/4 in turn 2, you're going to block the aggro. So
it's a 0/4. Yeah. It's a big butt.
Yeah, and an early way for non-aggro decks to start their engines, because just because you're going to start your engine doesn't mean you're going to try to aggro, and this is a good fella to start it out. Not exactly my cup of tea.
Nah, it's not exciting, but
now if you do happen to reach max speed and you drop a scrolling crawler, you're going to draw 4 cards on your upkeep.
Go
ahead, make me discard my hand. I'll draw 4 cards every turn. All right. Here's a fun one. Gonti Knight Minister. As Gonti does, it is 2 black. He is a 3/4. Notably, he does not have Death Touch, which makes me sad. However, the 3/4 is a decent body. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, that player creates a treasure token. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell this way.
Nice.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah. My thoughts with this is, so whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. So you deal damage to them, you get to take the top card of their library, possibly cast it. This is a great pairing with Tiny Bones. I know Tiny Bones is already taking things from graveyards.
Right.
So if you can drop a Tiny Bones, take 1 or 2 things from them early, because no one wants to block a 1/1 with Death Touch. And then you drop Gonti and immediately cast one of their things, you're going to get a treasure token. You're going to be able to keep on hitting. I think Gonti is going to be a great build in a mono black deck. So
yeah, that's going to be cool. That's going to be cool to see on the ladder. I think this like theft deck happening in standard.
Yeah.
There's not really that archetype's not really popping off right now, but I think probably with this and maybe some other little pieces, that's gonna be right in there. So
yeah, probably never be a tier 1, but a solid tier 2 deck, because black has great removal to keep you hitting and taking their cards.
I wonder, I'm just I'm thinking about sets coming up, and I'm thinking about Final Fantasy, and thieves have always been like a thing in Final Fantasy as well. I think actually Zidane from Final Fantasy 9, that was like one of his like classes or whatever, right?
yeah.
He was like a thief.
I don't remember that shit,
hey, I'm gonna call it right now. Coming up for Final Fantasy. Yeah, for Final Fantasy coming up. It's gonna be Zidane. What color is he gonna be? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking I'm leaning like Orzhov as well if they're gonna, do anything like this with that. But
Orzhov, yeah, cool, because he was a good character, right? He was on your team.
Yeah,
so,
but again,
don't do
he was like
Demir.
a thief. He was like a thief type of thing. Yeah,
Of course,
I don't know. Could be.
Don't do Demir. Go Orzhov for that then, for sure.
Right. Could be Esper too, though I could say actually. But
but you don't want to make 3-color because 3-color makes it hard, then it's harder to put it into a normal deck.
But actually, but I have Arietta Beguiler is kind of a thief theme as well, and that's Esper. So
that's true. Yeah. I mean, for Commander, hell yeah. But I mean, this is going to be a standard theme set, so we'll try not to.
Yeah.
All right. So next card, we're going for a green card here. This is Ovia Automech Artisan. She's a legendary 3 green, so a 4-mana 1/2, which isn't very good stats. However, each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample. So they don't have trample unless they're attacking, which is all that really matters. But she also says you could pay 1 green mana and tap her. You may put a creature or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put an artifact onto the battlefield this way, put 2 1/1 counters on it. So
this is go for it.
I was going to say you could cheat out like a Volgavoth or anything you want.
Right.
Go on.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so fragile, right? I mean, if you can get the ability, it's all about doing this ability, right? The creature itself is terribly unplayable, basically. But if you can get the ability off, you have to wait a turn. That's the problem.
Yes.
Right.
Unless, I mean, listen, it's turn 4, you drop this bitch.
Yeah.
So on turn 2, you could play the haste enablers. Get something out.
I mean, you could, yeah.
And then on turn 5,
so you're
drop
saying
her and tap her.
Gruul Shell. You're playing the haste enablers. Hopefully, you drop this. Turn 5, tap in a green, and then you get out what? Terror of the Peaks.
No, the Tyrannosaur dinosaur. What is it? From the vault.
The vault. Yeah.
The 7/7 that when it
tyrant.
That lets you gain 3 life and draw a card and all that stuff.
Vaultborn tyrant. Yeah.
Turn 1, Llanowar Elves. Turn 2, Haste Enabler. Turn 3, Llanowar Elves. Turn 4, drop this, give it haste, tap it, put out your creature. It has haste, swing with it. It now has trample. I mean, there's a lot you could do with this. Again, this is not going to be a meta, but
that's a deck. But yeah, that's a deck. But yeah, that's an experiment.
There's
an against the odds type of.
Right? Yeah, but also okay. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm making this work right now. Let me pull up another card here. So it would be Cityscape. So we're going to Scryfall. All right, hang with me here. City. That's 2. Am I remembering? Yes, Cityscape Leveler. I knew it. Okay, so Cityscape Leveler is an 8-mana artifact, 8/8 trample. When you cast this spell and whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tap Power Stone token. Okay, so you drop her on turn 3. Or no, because you want the 1 extra mana. You give her the haste. On turn 4, you drop her. You tap her. Brings this out. You give this haste with your haste enabler. And this swings, destroy a non-land permanent. And because it's an artifact, it comes out with 2 counters on it. You're swinging 10 mana and destroying any non-land permanent.
I mean, yeah.
Now, hear me out. On turn 3, you happen to have dropped that Thunderous Velocipede, right? So then you drop her on turn 4 with the 1 mana. You drop this out. It swings because it's for a greater. It's going to get the 1/1 counter, but it's also going to get the 2 1/1 counters from her. So now it's an 11/11 swinging. Or you just don't play her at all. I don't know, but
Just
I
dreaming.
like it.
Just dreaming out
Yes.
here.
I
Not
just love
playing
the
any like
idea.
no like value pieces or anything. Just going straight for the biggest
Yeah.
threats that you can come up with, you know. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
Christmas
it
land.
does work sometimes. Yeah.
Right. And the good thing is, like, you swing with the cityscape. Every time you swing now, it's gonna destroy a non-land permanent. So they're almost afraid to put, if they're dropping one big thing a turn, every time you swing with this 11/11 trampler, you're gonna destroy whatever they have. And then if they destroy your cityscape, it has unearth, so you can just recast it from the graveyard and swing with that as well. So it's not going to be powerful, but this is again another fun card where you can make shit happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she's legendary. You can make a commander out of her. So let's step back from standard. Commander has some of the biggest creatures in the fucking world.
Yeah.
And you could drop her with a soul ring on turn 3, you know, get her activated. So this is going to be a great budget mono green commander for people who don't want to spend a lot of money but love big stompy creatures. Okay. What else do I got here? Holy shit, we got some. Buddy, strap up.
that last card remind me of Howl Pack Piper from Crimson Vow.
Yes, absolutely. And Howl Pack is easier to get out, you know, and everything.
It's 4 mana,
but it doesn't.
It's the same thing.
Oh, is it really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there it is, and now it's going to give the creature trample and a 1/1 counter. So it's an upgraded version. Besides the fact that it's legendary, but who's going to have more than one out? All right. Howl Squad Heavy. It's 2 and a red for a 2/3. This is a start your engines. Other goblins you control have haste. I have a Rakdos Goblin deck on Arena for standard, and it is very powerful. The haste on it just makes it even more threatening. And it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 goblin creature token. That token attacks this combat if able. And if you have max speed, you can tap to add 1 mana for each goblin you control. I like this in the idea of doing a Impact Tremors goblin deck, because obviously all the goblins are going to be making more goblins, and if they all have haste and they're entering and dealing damage, this could be very deadly.
Impact Tremors
a whole
is
shell.
Great. Impact. What do you think? It's hard to say. I think Impact Tremors probably better than War Leader's Call, even just because you can get it out earlier. You know,
it's cheaper. You don't need to have the white in there, and at the end of the day, that +1/+1 to all creatures isn't how you're trying to win. So I would agree with you that Impact Tremors is just the stripped down most essential version of it. So yes.
And then this Howl Squad Heavy looks like probably the tech that goblins need to be relevant, basically.
Right. Now we just went over that 1 mana, the 1 red mana 1/1 goblin with menace that starts your engines. And then when it has max speed, it has double strike. So, you know, picture this is turn 1, you drop that, you start your engines right on turn 1 with a 1/1 with menace. On turn 2, you attack with that. It's got menace. There's no chance that your opponent dropped 2 creatures that turn. So you're going to at least get to, 2. On turn 3, you drop Howl Squad Heavy. Now all your goblins have haste. You're going to make another goblin. So hopefully you get 1 more damage in. You're at 3. And I mean, there's the Rakdos Goblin where at the end of your turn, if you dissented, your opponent can take 3 damage. Otherwise, it has to sacrifice a non-land permanent or something like that. And then that'll be your 4th. Now, suddenly, all goblins are online. Your first goblin has double strike. This goblin's going to be tapping for a ton of mana. You now drop a hasty dragon or anything like that, or just more goblins. And there's a way that turn 1, you're starting this engine, and by turn 4, you are tapping this guy for, let's say, 5 mana to just drop your whole hand. Goblins, man, they're out there.
Well, it might be coming up. You know, that might be one of the decks that pops up there, more towards the top of the ladder.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say at an RCQ, we're not going to see this deck, but I can guarantee everybody listening to this podcast, all 500 of you, because that's our listening group, that when you're playing best of one, yeah. I think we're almost there. But when you're playing best of one, I can almost guarantee you, because goblins is just a pet tribe for a lot of people. But in terms of best of one, you're going to be able to climb your ladder pretty fast with this. So I think best of one, there's going to be a lot of start your engine goblin decks. And for me personally, I'm going to say your best bet will to build it Rakdos. I'm actually pulling up right now. I'm going to tell you a few other goblins from the past that are where you want to be. Because there's a goblin that says whenever a goblin dies, look at the top cards of your library until you find another goblin. And I don't actually have it on here. What is it? Out of the build. All right, we're taking a quick pause here while I look this up. That way you guys don't have to listen to me look at this. Hold on. Okay. So for goblins, there is a turn 2 goblin called Runvelt Hordemaster, which is 1 in a red. It says other goblins you control get +1/+1, which is huge. And then whenever Hordemaster or another goblin you control dies, exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin card, you may cast it until the end of your next turn. So you could turn 1 that goblin to start the engine, turn 2 this goblin. Your goblins are now going to all have an anthem. And then whenever one dies, it's fine, because you're going to be able to possibly cast another one, or at least it'll be some sort of card draw, or at least card advantage. There is the Kranko, which has haste already. You could tap it to sacrifice an artifact and put a 1/1 counter on each goblin you control, so it can also pump out your goblins. Whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard, you can pay 1 red. If you do, create another goblin, and it gains haste. You have Squee out there, which whenever it attacks, it's going to make a 1/1 red goblin, tapped and attacking. And like you said, Impact Tremors is out here. So even if you're not hitting with these, they're going to be dealing damage on the entry. All these little tokens are going to be dealing. They're going to be pumped up. And then the one that I personally really like is Zoyawa Lava Tongue, which is why you would go Rakdos. It is black-red for a 2/2 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, which means if a permanent went to your graveyard, like any little goblin that you don't care about because you're going to get card advantage from it, each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent of their choice. Zoyawa deals 3 damage if each opponent doesn't, which is another way to, okay, you blocked my goblin. Okay, I get card advantage, and you're going to probably take the 3 damage because you don't want to sacrifice something so early. There, my engines just went up another speed. I'm now at max speed. Here we go. So goblins are going to be awesome. Goblin tangent.
We'll see.
Ooh, you sound like you got no faith in the gobos. Damn, that's fair though. It's not your play style.
They're always like a tier 2 type of thing. Well, I feel like goblins. I always manage to figure out how to get around them.
Well, Pyroblast or Pyrochasm. It's the 1 in a red, deal 2 damage to all creatures. Just play that. You'll kill every goblin.
That type of thing. Yeah.
2 mana. Blow it out.
Malicious Eclipse. Right now. Right. Malicious Eclipse is that
1 black.
Yep.
Yeah, let's pull that up actually, because that is a good removal right now.
Yeah. I got hit with that at the RCQ. There you go.
So all 1 black sorcery. All creatures get -2/-2 until end turn. If a creature would die this turn, exile it, so you don't even get that death ability. That's nice.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
That's how my creatures ended up in exile instead of the graveyard. So
yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Fuck that card.
Yeah.
All right. So Spectacular Pile Up. I think this is your card here. 3 white. All creatures and vehicles lose indestructible until end of turn, and then destroy all creatures and vehicles. Cycling 2.
Interesting.
So for me personally, I think this means typically I run 2 board wipes. This allows you to put a third one in because it has the cycling. So if you don't need it, cycle it. But the big thing is it removes indestructible. So
yeah. No, this is that's interesting. Yeah. I think you might be onto something there as far as it being more playable. Like, I don't even usually run a board wipe, but this is a board wipe I might consider because of the cycling, because of the times that you don't need it,
Yeah, for sure. I like that it hits vehicles too. Now, if vehicles don't take off in the format, this is kind of useless. At that point, I would just stay with Sunfall because it just exiles everything. That way, graveyards can't be used. But again, like you're saying, the cycling is pretty good.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. So do I think this is going to replace Sunfall? No. But if vehicles are a problem, yes. That's the contingency. Because they don't have to be crude. It's just if there's a vehicle, fuck it up too. So, all right.
I gotta give you one of these grapefruit IPAs that I'm sitting on over here.
Yeah. Shit. All right. Where'd you get it from? Was that from Weiss or Dingus?
Yeah, got it from Wise because they didn't have the Dogfish Head 60-minute that I usually go for. Okay. So just tried something a little different, tried something new.
Hell yeah. Variety is the spice of life, All right.
What do we got?
Onward.
Here?
Unstoppable Plan, which is 2 and a blue enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all non-land permanents you control. I mean, nothing else. That's it. It's just 3 mana, untap everything that's not a land.
Yeah, that's really good. I wonder, is this better than what is it, Wilderness Reclamation? I think.
Well, Wilderness untaps all your lands. This isn't going to tap any land. So I would say Wilderness is definitely better.
I was going to say non-land permanents. My bad.
Yeah, non-land. So I mean, if you have for Commander, if you have a lot of mana rocks, this will really help. I just built Goldberry, which this is 200% going in Goldberry. But for Standard, man, can you?
Well, so it'll work for. Well, yeah, it'll work for your Power Stones, right?
Yes, it will.
Like that might be the way you use it. Even I don't know.
It's a shame this is an. I'd like if this was an artifact instead of enchantment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but still could work.
Yeah. So anyone listening, listen. We don't know
if
where
you were gonna,
but
if you were gonna play, if you were gonna play it in kind of an artifact control-y type of deck, I could see this going into the what is it, simulacrum or synthesizer deck.
Yep.
Maybe, but you're only playing probably a one of in there.
Yeah, you don't need 2 of these out.
You don't need two of them, but when you hit this, 1 out of 10 games or 1 out of 7 games or whatever, might be relevant, might be worthwhile.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like, let's say you use a bunch of creatures to crew vehicles, swing with the vehicles, and then at the end of your turn, all your creatures will untap. That way you could still block. So you use your creatures as heavy aggro, and then you use your creatures as the blockers. So you use like a bunch of big butt creatures, like 1/4s, 2/4s, swing out with crew 2s, crew 3s, and then at the end of your turn, you're untapping all your 2/4s, 1/5s, or whatever the fuck, and now you have blockers as well. So,
all right,
interesting.
How many more spoilers you got here?
My guy, I've got about 10 more, but all right. Well, let me pick the ones that are most relevant.
All right, let's hit 1 or 2 more, and then let's we talked about maybe doing the pre-release next Friday. That might work out for me.
Awesome.
So we'll figure out a way to record coming up either before or right after the pre-release, and we'll hit some more of these cards.
All right, definitely. Let's do right
Sounds
after.
good.
All right, so let me
All
hit
right.
you with two more then. How does that sound?
So perfect. All right,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Here we go. I've got the Hellish Sideswipe. And this is for standard specifically. So it's 1 black mana as a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. I like that it's not just sacrificing a creature, but you can also choose an artifact like a tapped Power Stone. Destroy target creature or vehicle. If the sacrificed permanent was a vehicle, you draw a card. I don't see why you would ever sacrifice a vehicle to destroy something, but in the account you have to.
This is your like your draft or sealed, all-star right here. This is your bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, blow up any bomb vehicle, any bomb creature, and all you got to do is get rid of your shittiest.
You're gonna be fiending to open 1 or 2 of these on Friday coming up.
Oh, personally, hell yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, and then here I'm hitting you with some uncommons now because I know you love the uncommons.
Give me 1 or 2 more if they're like that.
Yeah. All right. So Glory Heath Lynx. Here's another limited bomb. So it's 1 and a white for a 2/3 with lifelink. 2 mana 2/3 with lifelink. Can it get any better? Yes, it can. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, which saddle is 2, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the stuff that's gonna be relevant from this set, I think. Yeah. And there's already a cat deck kind of milling around there in standard, kind of figuring out what to do. So this feels like the 2-drop that they need. Probably.
Yeah. And it's got that 3 toughness, which is just the most, because this should be a 2/2. 2 mana 2/2.
These are good stats. These are good stats. 2/3 lifelink, and then it's got abilities too. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. No, for sure. All right. And then here's a personal pet favorite. Gastral Thrill Seeker, which I spelt wrong, of course. So Gastral Thrill Seeker is a black-red, so it's a 2 mana 2/3. Again, great stats. Would start your engines. Whenever this creature enters, it deals 1 damage to target opponent, and you gain 1 life. So let's say you start your engines on turn 1. Turn 2, you drop this. Even though your engine's already started on the entry, it's going to deal the 1 damage and automatically put you to 2. If you didn't start at turn 1 and you started with him, he enters, start your engines, and then it deals the damage, so you go to 2 anyway. So he pretty much says on turn 2, you're going to be at speed 2. And then the max speed is the creature has death touch and haste. The max speed is not that important, but he is a max speed enabler. Huge.
Yeah.
Also, notably, he's a lizard, which is very relevant.
I mean, that's your card right there that has start your engines that already has a shell to go in and might, just slip into that shell and make it a little bit better, basically.
Yeah.
So,
no, definitely.
It'll be interesting to see if that has any enough synergy to boost lizards up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. This is gonna be one of the things that I build on the first week of my start your engines as a lizard themed aggro Rakdos. It's literally hitting every bell that I want.
That looks like a U card for sure. That's a U card all the way. Yeah. Sweet. Like it.
Yeah,
I like that.
Dude, how funny is it that we just talked about so much Aether Spark, we haven't hit the actual Aether Spark or like these the Lotus. We'll save that for when Joel's here, because honestly that's more commander stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
And I know, you saw in the text message, Joel was just absolutely so excited for this set. He thinks this is a fantastic set through and through. He can't wait till it comes out. Wants to play it all. So we'll save some of the best cards when Joel's here. That way he could gush about it.
Yeah. I know. I'm expecting that he is going to be severely disappointed that he won't be there on the pre-release.
Yeah.
He's going to be just brokenhearted, I'm sure.
I know. We'll have to send him some pictures of loot just so he feels like he's included.
Yeah. I'm getting hyped. Man. So it's not as bad as you know what? Like the theme seems like something distasteful, but it feels like a new Capenna to me, kind of.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think you said it well as well, that this is gonna be one that people regret sleeping on.
Yeah. I'm gonna scoop it all up. I'm buying the box. And we'll go over all this on our next podcast of these super rare gold bordered cards that are going to be coming out as only box toppers, and there's 127, so it's not like there's going to be a bunch of each. Like that's going to be a wild thing. So only in box toppers, and there's 127 different options. So
interesting.
That might be a little mini lottery there. So
very interesting. Well, I'm not displeased, so
Yeah. Oh, and so I don't know if you have anything left to say, but I do want to just cover that the story for this, I listened to the entire story of this. It was subpar for me. I mean, listen, I know that they're just writing them to push the cards.
This is so, if there's again, the theme of this set isn't, something that I hear and think, oh, that's going to be a good Magic set. I think, we're mostly all fans of the more high fantasy, themes and sets that they have. And I'm very hopeful for Final Fantasy, because I think that that's a story that we all, sort of hold in high regard. But
yeah, I know. I know, man. I know this is a rough one to get through. That's why I'm trying so hard to hype it up, is because if you take the titles and the artwork and the theme away, these are fantastic Magic cards, and I'm just trying to really put out that don't let the fact that they kind of botched the theme hurt the fact that these cards are fantastic additions to a game that we love very much. And let me sum up the entire story in 90 seconds. So anyway, Chandra and Nissa are mouth deep in muff for the whole first chapter.
Nice.
And once I was done cleaning myself up, this person's speed demon was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking win this race, and everyone's like, no, you're not. And then they're all racing, and there's speed demons, and there's the almond ketty, which every time I hear almond ketty, I think my mama's spaghetti on my sweater already. Knees weak, arms are heavy. But so they're all racing around.
It, dude.
Winter makes sure that he's the meanest, grumpiest, punching Loot in the face, literally like fucking torturing Loot. And then Chandra takes Loot and is like, leave him alone. And then
interesting.
Yeah. And then, Speed Demon stops going towards the end, or was it Speed? I don't know. That the one
worst, man,
to go help Chandra, because Chandra's in need, and then the Almond Ketty win it. That way they could take their spark home to save their lands, which I guess is good. And then at the end, Winter just dives back into a hole to hell because he didn't win, and he's like, no. And then that's it.
Who are they writing this for? That's who I'm really. That's what I'm really curious about. Who are they?
I don't know, but it started out so hot and heavy, bro. Woof. I was like, yes. Oh my god.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, and then Nissa
Yeah.
didn't even get a fucking card in here. She's in the commander set.
I love
which,
how
again,
that
we'll wait for Joel for that. So
this whole thing is so abstract. I love that that's the storyline, and then the result is us going to RCQs and playing super serious.
yeah. I don't know why they're doing this, but you know what? Listen, people want this, and people are going to enjoy this.
Well,
so let it happen. Again, the youth.
Yeah,
I mean, we have SpongeBob
absolutely.
coming out soon, so like the same people who want SpongeBob want this probably, and that's fine.
I mean,
I'll find a way to like it.
There's a ton of potential for, Magic the Gathering, extended media, TV show, anime, whatever, something like that. Hey, my stepdaughter loves it.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, when they make that movie, don't start with this storyline. Find a different one to start with. This is not.
No, absolutely. No, they got to do something that's hits all the classics, all the classic planeswalkers and stuff. They're icons.
I'd like to see, honestly. So the best storyline I remember was the Spark, where everyone lost their spark in. Oh my god, how do I not know that dragon's name? What is the bad dragon?
Oh, Nicol Bolas.
Nicol Bolas. Yeah, Nicol Bolas as the enemy, and you need to have a mighty enemy is what it comes down to. Don't give us the Brothers War. Don't give us I want Nicol Bolas.
No, I think Nicol Bolas has to be the villain. Yeah,
because he's cunning, he's intelligent, he's a mighty dragon. He can really lay down the law, and that means that there's going to be a big fight. So if they are going to actually start a storyline in something more serious than these little shitty stories, which I enjoyed it, but like at the end of the time, I'm listening to some phenomenal audiobooks right now, and this was like a joke compared to what I've been listening to. So
I would imagine, but all right, we got way off track. We had beers. We went through Aether Spark spoilers, and we got way off the beaten path. And next week we're gonna have to race home to the finish, right?
Oh shit! I love it. That was good. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't been able to flap my gums about Magic, so I just this was a lot for me. Sorry, guys.
Absolutely. Well, that's the bottom of the glass, I believe. There it is. And we'll see you hopefully next week.
Take it easy.